Hello guys and welcome back to HJW Gaming and my first commander guide since Rise to War moved to its 2.5 patch. This video is going to be a commander guide on the attack based hero Aragorn King of Men. Now, Aragorn King of Men, you will know, anyone who's followed my streaming content will know that I use him regularly and I've really enjoyed him ever since 2.0 first came out. So I'd love to have a look at exactly how to build him, what gear is best for him, and then also, kind of discuss where he is in the tier rankings. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like on it and please consider subscribing to see more of my Rise to War and mobile gaming content in the future. Now, into Aragorn King of Men. You see here I have him respect 6 level 48 here, so I've given him a fair push in this current server. Now, he is a might-based hero. You'll see his base damage here is 21 to 24, which is not too bad. How that compares to, say, Dain, however, who's obviously the kind of pinnacle of attack or might-based heroes, 23 to 26, so he is a little bit on the weaker side. However, what he does have to make up for that is he does have higher command than most other attack-based heroes, so he is something of a hybrid in that he can deal a lot of damage, but also that higher command means he'll lose significantly less troops. So you'll see here he's losing 14.1% or taking 14.1% less damage versus Dain, who's 2.9. So there's a quite significant difference there in the amount of damage he's going to be receiving. He's going to be more tanky, but he isn't going to deal the same amount of damage that you get from Dain. The same thing is reflected in his skills. So the biggest problem with the 2.5 patch for Aragorn King of Men is the addition that at respect 5, I believe, you can now, or maybe respect 10, respect 10, you can now fully skill out 3 skills within a commander. So the problem from Aragorn King of Men is that he only has 2 skills that can deal damage, which is Anduril and Strider. His third skill here is King of Men, which increases unit damage for the first 5 rounds, but it does make them a little bit tankier, because if you receive stun or madness, you will receive less damage, up to a point of 30% when it's maximised. Now, this could be very useful as stuns and madness are quite in the meta at the minute, particularly with commanders such as Sauron, of course, who inflicts a lot of stuns and madness. So having that 30% damage debuff could be very valuable during turns where you're unable to take skill actions. However, it's not great when you compare to other damage dealing heroes. You want your damage dealer to deal damage, so you want them to have a 3rd damage skill ideally. So like Dain, for example, has 3 damage skills. Gimli does as well, but unfortunately King of Men only has the 2, so his damage is always going to have somewhat of a ceiling. Now, the way you want to build him here is exactly as you can see on my screen here. You want to put points into Anduril, try and maximise that, because it's a 2-round burst, 2-round prep burst damage skill, so every 3rd round it will hit, so rounds 3, 6 and 9 due to that 2-round prep, and it will deal 420% damage to 2 enemy formations, and it'll increase your damage dealt by 10% for 2 rounds once it's fully maximised, and you also get a nice attack boost for the commander when you put 10 points in there as well. Now, this will be the first skill you'll want to put the points into. Reason being is once that 5th skill point goes in and you get that 10% bonus damage, that can then be effective for the 2nd damage skill. So you want to make sure that is in effect before you put your skill points into Strider. Otherwise, on rounds where both skills activate at once, you won't be getting the benefit of that bonus 10% damage. So you want to make sure to put points in Anduril first, so then Strider, which is a 1-round cooldown damage skill, activating in round 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10, can then get the benefit of that, notably in round 6. So Strider here only deals 540% damage, because of course this one is 840 once you combine both hits. So it's slightly less damage, but of course triggers more rounds, so you will get kind of regular damage with this, with that big burst coming in round 6 when it lines up with Anduril. So yeah, with 10 skill points you get 540% physical damage, 5 skill points you get 5 commander initiative, which isn't really very useful for his build. But the one good thing it does get is at level 10 you do gain Keen Eye, and with Gil-galad coming more into the meta nowadays, as well as Undying and other evasion heroes, having Keen Eye can actually be really great for dealing additional damage and keeping your damage consistent. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a growth, I'd say, with 2.5, a bit of a benefit that King of Men has seen. But as we discussed earlier, that third skill going into Kings of Men doesn't really help improve his damage at all. So yeah, remaining points basically go into Kings of Men, and once you've maximised that, the last bit goes into LSR. We're not using LSR as his heal is fairly weak. We're not going to be giving him enough focus gear to kind of bump up that heal, and even then it's not a strong heal, so not worth skilling into. Speaking about gear then, so we looked into his skills, we know he's an attack damage, physical damage dealing commander. What kind of gear are we looking to give him? Now you'll see here what I've given him is all basically attack boosting gear all the way through, just try and get that attack as much as possible. You want to try and get his attack as high as possible. Previously, there was kind of a soft ceiling of around 200 to 230 attack. I'd say that ceiling's moved a little bit higher now, as with Sauron now scaling with focus, he can decrease your commander's attack stat by more than he could previously. So I think the soft ceiling's moved up a little bit. So basically, just try and get that attack as high as possible so you can maximize Aragorn King of Men's damage. So what kind of gear is best in slot? Now for weaponry, you can see you want to use one of the three weapons listed on here. The best in slot is of course the Axe of Khazad-dûm. Main reason for that is it gives the highest possible attack increase with 48 attack. It has the highest average damage with of course the 14 to 30 damage range, and it has the highest possible maximum damage with that 30 damage. So basically it's gonna deal the most damage most consistently for your commander. So if you can, put this on your King of Men. Of course, you might already be using it on another damage dealer if you only have enough gear for one Axe of Khazad-dûm. So if you use them alongside Dain or something like that, you might want to use your Axe of Khazad-dûm on Dain and then put a secondary damage weapon on King of Men. And if you're looking to do that, you can also look into the Black Bow, which is kind of the second choice. It offers the second highest amount of attack and second highest average amount of damage between that 12 and 28. Obviously, it doesn't quite have quite the same ceiling as it's 2 damage less. Same with the minimum damage, 2 damage less as well, and that lower bit of attack, but it's still a very strong contender. And then the last one that I always like to slot in is the Blazing Tongue. The reason I love to slot this in is you can get it from season end medals, so it's a lot easier to get it fully refined than it will by other weapons that you have to rely on the Matham chest. So Blazing Tongue I definitely always slot in there. It still has that 30 maximum damage, so joint highest for maximum damage, though the floor is a little bit lower with the lowest damage being 10. And it only grants 27 attack, which is a little bit lower than of course what you get from the other two, but it's still a decent attack boost, and it does also offer 27 focus. So it's definitely a decent weapon. There's a little bit more RNG just because of that large spread between the damage. If you're looking for exquisite rarity weaponry, you'll want to look no further than the Battle Axe. This one's a fairly no-brainer. It's got the smallest damage range, really, for the high attack items anyway, with 10 and 14, so you'll be dealing 12 average damage. Obviously, you'll note that's a significant downfall versus the flawless weaponry, so you'll always want to be using flawless where you can. If you can get one refined maybe, or 1 or 2 strengthened, use flawless. It's much better than even fully strengthened and fully refined exquisite. But anyway, this for the exquisite, this offers the highest amount of attack, highest average damage, highest maximum damage, and the highest minimum damage. So there's no reason not to use it, basically. I've put 2 other options on here, though they're not really things you're going to want to consider. The Easterling Spear offers significantly less attack and a higher damage range, and the Dirk offers way lower attack, as you can see with 6 there, but it will give you consistent returns at least, with its average damage being 10 and no damage range, so at least consistently output similar damage, but it's a significant downfall on the Battle Axe. Next up, we have chest pieces. Now, you've got a number of different choices here. The best in slot will always be the Berserker's Raiment, as it does offer the highest amount of possible attack. It also offers a little bit of initiative, not massive on damage-dealing commanders, but as a little bonus, if you can get your damage skills activated before your opponents, that could always help swing a battle in your favour. And it does offer a good HP increase as well. But mainly we're looking just for that highest amount of attack. Now, if you really want to push your attack, as high as possible and you don't mind too much about commander HP, there are two good classic items which can do really, really well. And that is the classic Durin's Plate and the classic Golden Skin. Now, if you can get the Fine Refine on this, it does offer an enormous amount of bonus attack. On the Durin's Plate, you can get up to 72 bonus attack, and on the Golden Skin, 66. But what you are losing, of course, is that HP. So if you get this kind of massive amount of attack, you can instead pair this with say like a Cask of Pride, a Cask of Submerged Style or something like that in the helms to increase your defense, because you've already got a significantly higher attack, so you can think about increasing unit defense. However, I definitely still recommend the Berserker's Raiment. The other thing you lose, of course, by using classic gear is you lose set effects, so you can't use things like Perseverance, for example, which is probably the best set effect for King of Men, or Might as well is a very strong set effect for him. And with gear sets now having a two-piece effect, I find set effects to be pretty substantial, or at least providing a big benefit. So I definitely recommend using the Berserker's Raiment over either of these. Now, if you find with all your other gear you have an enormous amount of attack, you can actually look to buff unit defense and use the Elven Hauberk. This offers a lot more HP actually for your commander, so he'll be more survivable, but the main thing you're looking for is unit defense, which will make obviously his units more tanky. You combine that with King of Men's high amount of command, and therefore his units will be significantly tankier than any other damage dealing commander, so will survive a lot longer. But you only want to do this if you already have very, very high attack in your commander. I'm talking 220 probably plus. In my opinion, I'd still use the Berserker's Raiment though. I just put this on there as it is another option. Exquisite Chests. Now, there's not a huge amount of choice here, as the 2.0 Exquisite Chests are reasonably poor. I know I use it on mine just to get a kind of Fortitude buff set, as we looked at a moment ago. I do use it there, but just for that kind of Fortitude buff that I get on there. And I do still get the plus 15 attack, but if I had a Berserker's Raiment, for example, with Fortitude, and I wasn't already using it on my Dain, I would be using Berserker's Raiment. But yeah, so Exquisite Chests. Now, as I said, the Scale Mail is probably the best 2.0 option, as it offers the highest amount of commander HP, highest amount of attack for a 2.0 exquisite item, and a little bit of commander defense as well, but mainly we're just looking for that attack. However, if you do have classic items, there's a couple of decent options. There is the Gallant effect, which boosts attack on it boosts the attack given to the commander pretty significantly. If you get the Gallant buff on a classic Goblin Armor fully refined, it in total will give you plus 54 attack, and if you put the same on a Scale Mail, you get plus 36 attack. So obviously these are significantly increased upon the 2.0 counterpart. You can also look to use a classic melee vigor superior Hauberk. This will offer plus 30 attack along with plus 15 unit defense. So you'll make your units tankier and give good attack to King of Men. So this is another strong option. And with the melee vigor effect, you'll actually take 6% less damage as well. So if you're going to be looking to use exquisite chess pieces, the classic is definitely the way to go. Now for helms, the 2.0 Cask of Pride comes out pretty significantly on top here, in my opinion, as it offers the highest amount of attack and the highest amount of HP, which is pretty much where you draw the line. However, if you are looking to use something slightly different, actually I would recommend probably the Cask of the Submerged Style, the third option here. 30 attacks, nothing to be sniffed at, a little bit more initiative for your commander, but the main thing we're looking at here is if you have it in the classic version with Determination, it can be excellent. So Determination actually prevents Commander Madness when suitably refined, and Commander Madness on damage dealing commanders can be a fairly big deal, as of course if you say that Madness gets hit in round 6 and then your King of Men's double burst damage hits your own troops, you're going to be having a bad time. So having Madness resistance with Determination can be fantastic. But the Cask of Pride Classic can also be good as well, slightly less attack but plus 30 unit defense, units tanky, good attack for your commander, what's not to love? And I guess the answer to that is you don't get set effects and you don't get commander HP, so you have to always keep that in mind. So I'd always look to use probably the 2.0 Cask of Pride if you can get it with a good set effect that synergizes with your gear. Now, Exquisite Helms. Once again, Classic comes out way on top here. We're mainly looking here at the classic full helm, which offers a massive increase in attack on its 2.0 counterpart. When fully strengthened, it offers plus 45 attack, which again is pretty enormous, similar to the chess pieces. Way more than you get on the 2.0, which only offers 18 attack. Of course, at the cost again of HP on your commander, but still it's a pretty decent attack buff. And you can also look to use the Horseman's Helm as well, which does give you plus 24 attack as well as some unit defense, only if you're using mounted units. So you'll want to use something like a Cataphract, and then you'll get that bonus unit defense in there as well. Now, accessories, if you can, always make sure you're using a damage flawless accessory. You don't want to be using exquisite counterpart accessories, as they don't offer bonus damage. The best of these you can see here. We've got the 2.0 Palantir, which is the best in slot, offers the highest amount of attack at 48, very similar to like the Cask of Pride and the Axe of Khazad-dûm, so consider that the equivalent item for the accessory slot. But it also offers up to 10 bonus damage as well. Starts off with 5 when unrefined, goes up to 10 when fully refined. Highest amount of possible damage, no range in that at all, and highest amount of attack. Palantir's got to be your choice unless you're using it on another damage dealer. If you are, then the drums of, I think it's the drums of Barad-dûr, is your second choice. 6 to 10 damage range, so slightly lower minimum, but still has that highest 10 as the maximum, so can do similar. And the attack is reasonably comparative as well, with a maximum of 36 attack when fully strengthened, versus the Palantir's 48, so a little bit of a decrease again, but still a good damage accessory. And lastly, there is a classic accessory. I don't think I'd really recommend this over the other two. I definitely, if you've got them available, I'd use the other two, but you can look to use the classic gold smoking pipe with a buff called Heroism. Heroism, when fully refined, can increase your commander's damage by 18%. Whether this is comparable to like a refined Palantir, for example, giving plus 10 damage, I don't think it is. I think it's still less of a buff than just using a damage accessory. But I had to put it there as an option, so I know some people do like to use it. Otherwise, the plus focus and plus unit HP is pretty much pointless, so all you're looking for is that bonus damage, so I recommend using either of the top two options up here. Exquisite, I'm not really going to touch on too much. They can give bonus attack. If you have to use Exquisite, then the Bone Talisman's the best with a plus 18 attack and a small amount of HP, but as it doesn't give any bonus damage, I would not be looking to use either of these. So, carrying on, here's Relic, King of Men's Relic. As with any commander, I definitely recommend picking up the Relic if you do have him respect level 10, as you know, there's no reason not to pick it up for the small amount of Mithril if you have it available. You can get those bonus stats, as you can see, bonus command of plus 30, bonus 6 attack, so you'll deal a little bit more damage, and then a little bit of unit buffs as well, notably unit defense. The buff on this is Kingly Inspiration, which makes you, upon dealing damage, there's a 50% chance to increase damage dealt by this formation's man unit by 0.5% till the end of battle. Can stack up to 20 times, so unrefined plus 10% damage. Overall, I'd say this accessory is not worth refining. Reason being is damage being dealt by men units is not what we're looking to do with King of Men. We're looking for commander damage, so this is going to be a fairly small buff at the cost of a lot of Mithril. So I would not recommend refining his accessory, but I would pick it up if you can have that available. And last but not least, we'll look at his we'll look at his Respect 10 skin, a little bit buggy there, but I actually really like his Respect 10 skin. I think he looks really nice. Switching over to that gold armour, I think he properly looks like the King of Men he's meant to be. So, yeah, I really like his Zenith skin. So if you have it available, obviously you're going to use it, but yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Now, tier rankings, where would I place Aragorn 2, King of Men? Now, previously in 2.0, I would have had Aragorn around the A tier. He's definitely he's never been S tier along with like your Dains, for example, or high respect Scowhelms, for example, as far as damage dealt, but he's always outputted a reasonably strong amount of damage. The problem is now with 2.5, with those additional skill points, he doesn't see the same benefit as other damage dealers, so he's naturally going to fall down the rankings. In my opinion, he slips to a B tier, so he does slip below some other commanders which have which have 3 damage skills, and he slips further away again from Dain for the same reason. I still think he's a solid option. He's a very strong commander, can output good amounts of damage. However, he doesn't have those that extra skill, like I said, and he could have done with a little bit of rebalancing the same way they did with Legolas. However, he is still a strong option for a damage dealer. The other thing you do with a rework is his Relic. If you think about commanders like Lurtz, who have 2 damage skills, and their 3rd skill actually buffs their attack, so at least still synergizes with the build of Lurtz, so he's still increasing his commander attack. And then on top of that, his Relic increases his normal attack damage and synergizes well with him. We could really do with the same for King of Men. Until then, he's not really going to be an upper tier commander, so if anything, I think he's even like the lower end of B tier probably. So still worth using, still decent, but he's not going to be your top tier commander. If we take a look at some of my reports I've had recently, we can kind of see how he's performed in action. This is one I've picked up actually while we've been recording this video. So you'll see here kind of the comparable damage is significantly lower than Dain, outputting nearly half. Of course, Dain does have slightly better gear here with the Warcry set, fully strengthened and a lot more refined in the weapon. But it's not like King of Men is ungeared, so he still should be coming a lot closer to that, and just Dain blows him out of the water here. So you can see King of Men damage significantly reduced. Previously we were getting 110, 120k out of him, compared to like a 140, 150 from our Dain, but I have noticed the drop off with King of Men a little bit. And we have this hit here with Aeon Blue, so at least here I suppose we did get near that 120 that I just said about, so sometimes he can do a decent amount of damage. You'll notice though with Dain's also jumped up 20k damage in this report as well. So comparatively, he's still about the same distance away from Dain's total damage output. You know, it's not a bad report, but you can just see he's not quite outputting the same amount of damage as he did previously. Seeing here again, he did output again less damage than Dain, outputting 54k versus Dain's 88, as we took a bit of a hammering here from Hanar from mine. But yeah, still a decent amount of damage. And then last up, we have this report here with Night King. He does again breach the 100k barrier just about, but still 50k shy of Dain. So he can still output good damage. He can still be a very good commander for you, and he is a good damage dealer, which is why I still have him. You know, I don't have him in like a trash tier or anything like that. He's still up there, in my opinion, floating around the B tier. But if you're looking for a very, very high damage dealer, of course, look towards Dain. If you have a choice between the two, but King of Men can definitely form a part of your squad. That high command and less damage received can be very valuable for keeping your units alive, and he can still output a decent amount of damage. So yeah, I'm going to place him in the B tier. Anyway, with that, that's everything I had to say on this. If you've enjoyed, smash the like button, and please hit subscribe to see more of my content in the future. And with that, I've been HJW Gaming, and I really look forward to seeing you on the next one.